So, my sister's been known to be the golden child. She asked me to help her complete her thesis so she can finally complete her master's degree. Well, little did I know, she just wanted to straight up use me. She was not going to help at all, and she says, "Hey, you've written a thesis before, so you can just do it for me." Well, I don't really agree with her tactics, so I decide to do this.
Hello everyone. I'm pretty new here, but I needed somewhere to vent, and this group was recommended by a friend of mine as being a good place to get advice and new perspectives. I'm a 26-year-old woman, and I've graduated with my master's degree about 2.5 years ago. My sister, who's 22, is in the middle of doing her master's at the moment. My sister and I have always had a complicated relationship. Our parents split up when I was 10 and she was 6, and that's obviously going to take a big toll on us. Before they broke up, our home life was full of yelling, tears, slamming doors, and so my father moving out was actually kind of a blessing in disguise because things were able to calm down a bit after he left. Though my sister was too young to really be able to tell. That's kind of always been the issue between us because she was so young when everything was so chaotic and unstable at home, and she never really came to terms with the fact that our dad leaving was a good thing. She felt that our mother had pushed him to move out so that she could be our primary parent and turn us against him. Obviously, this was not true, and my sister has definitely matured and grown up since then, but the sentiment stayed the same and she kept in contact with our father while I did not. As I said, she was too young to really grasp the full context of our home life and the reasons our parents split up, and would never take me seriously when I brought it up to her, telling me I was reading into things too much and making things seem worse than they actually were. At a certain point, I stopped trying to talk to her about our childhood because I knew she would not be able to relate to where I was coming from. And it led to a lot of emotional hostility and distance between us. Things carried on the way for a while, distant but not hostile, until I graduated with my master's a few years ago and things became really tense. I had a celebratory dinner and the night of my graduation with my mother, my sister, my boyfriend, and a few of my close friends at my favorite restaurant. Doing my master's degree had taken a lot out of me, and I wanted to be congratulated by myself on a job well done. The night came, and everyone was having a great time except for my sister, who was late, as she often is. She eventually turned up about an hour after she was already drunk and acting messy. I already knew from how she looked that we were in for a chaotic night, but tried to enjoy myself anyway. My boyfriend stood up to make a really lovely speech about me, but was interrupted by my sister, who had decided she wanted to let everyone know how undeserving I was of their praise. She started off by saying that I had chosen an easy subject to study, so my high grade was nothing really special. Then went on a rant about how I had a victim mentality and always told everyone I'd had a bad childhood, but I was just being dramatic. I have no idea what triggered my sister to say these things, though she never liked it when I got more attention than her, so maybe she just wanted to steal the spotlight, I don't know. The restaurant had her removed from making a scene, and we all tried to get back to the pleasant evening that we've been enjoying before she showed up. I decided from then on that I was going to stop making excuses for her bad behavior, as the only person it was hurting was me. She tried to call me so many times to apologize in the days and weeks after that night, but I chose not to have any contact with her for a long time after that. I only chose to get back in contact with my sister in the last year or so, as my boyfriend and I recently got engaged, and I wanted to see if I could heal some of my relationship with various family members, including her. She apologized many times for her behavior that night, blaming her outburst on alcohol, her emotional state, and many other things. I knew she was trying to take some sort of responsibility in her own way, so I decided to let her back into my life, though on my own terms. Since then, we've gradually been getting a bit closer as she was shown me that she's trying to grow up and take some accountability for her choices, and that's what really matters. At the end of the day, she is my sister, and I'm just trying to build some sort of relationship with her. That brings me to the reason for this post today. My sister's currently doing her master's degree, and ironically, has chosen to write her thesis on a very similar subject to what I wrote mine on. Maybe because she knew she would ask me for help, or maybe because she has a genuine interest in the subject. Who knows? She came to me recently and asked me for my help writing the paper, as I'd gotten quite a good grade on mine a few years back. I would be flattered that my sister would ask me for help, as it would be a good sign for our relationship. But my sister is the kind of person who has never tried very hard, whether it be academically or in any other aspect of her life. She coasts through life, either getting other people to do her work for her or just not caring how things end up. And her college career has been no exception. To be honest, I was surprised when I found out she was doing a master's degree, and she put in no effort at all into her undergraduate degree. So, her asking me for help writing her thesis just makes me think that she can't be bothered to write the thing herself, and just wants me to do it for her. My difficulty is whether I should agree to help my sister write the thesis or not. Part of me wants to just let her struggle and fail, as I know she will never put in the effort she should. The other part of me wants to help her, as she is still my little sister. Well, I've realized that I hold quite a bit of resentment towards my sister, not only just for her actions at my graduation, but for how she remembers our childhood, compared to how I experienced it. The age gap definitely did contribute to this, as a 6-year-old is definitely not going to be able to understand an emotionally abusive home life as much as a 10-year-old is, and I get that. I know it's not very healthy to feel this way. We were both children, after all, and it's not her fault the way she experienced our childhood was different from how I experienced it. But it is her fault how things went on and what was supposed to be the proudest day of my life. For this reason, a little voice in my head is telling me to help her, but to help her in a way that will show her that not only should she not mess with me, but she should, well, have been taking school seriously all these years. Of course, I don't think I would actually do that to her, but it helps to daydream about it. I'm going to keep thinking it over for the next few years and give her my answer. I'll come back and let you all know what I decide. Thank you for reading. Update number 1. Hey everyone. Before I get into it, I wanted to say thanks for the kind responses to my original post. It was really nice to see that so many people relate to what I went through and how I feel about my childhood, so I really appreciate that. I did receive quite a few hateful comments as well, which I suppose is to be expected on the internet. So, there's not much really I can do about that. I will say this though. None of you know me, know my sister, or know what we've gone through. I'm very much valid in how I may feel about my childhood or about any of my family members, so just because you might respond to a situation differently does not give you the right to be cruel. Remember that, and apply it to your own lives. So, I finally made my decision, and I'm going to help my sister write her thesis. I figure she is still my sister after all, right? And she did come to me specifically for help, and yeah, I know she probably mostly did it because she's writing her paper on a similar topic to what I wrote my thesis on. Plus, the fact that she doesn't want to actually apply herself. But that's irrelevant. I figure that maybe our working together on this project will help us to connect and finally be able to relate towards each other. I'm basically just trying to be the bigger person, and remember that she always struggled throughout our childhood just like I did, despite experiencing it differently. Just because she chose my dad in the emotional battle between the parents doesn't mean that she missed out on being treated like crap. That man never has and never will change his ways or apologize for anything, so I have no doubt that she was on the receiving end of some things over the years. I'm just going to try to build our relationship and hope that we can finally be there for each other after all these years of being so distant. So, her thesis is due in 2 months' time, which gives us a few weeks to put together a good piece of writing that'll hopefully earn her a good grade. I've already started putting together a schedule of times when we can sit down together and establish a structure for the thesis, as I know she won't be bothered to do it herself. I also know she'll be wanting me to do the lion's share of the work, which definitely won't be happening, so I'm sure I'm in a bit of an annoyance along the way. I've made my choice though, and I'm going to be the big sister and help her out. That's all I really have to say at the moment. I just wanted to come back and let you all know what I've decided to do, as it seemed a lot of you were quite invested in what I got going on. Again, I really do appreciate the supportive messages. There are some really lovely people here, and I'm really glad that I've joined this group. I'll come back soon if I have another update, but until then, thanks for reading. Update number 2. Hey guys, back again with another update on how things are going with my sister. So, I know that in my last post on this subject, I was coming from a more mature perspective on helping my sister with her thesis. But right now, I'm seriously rethinking my decision. I've been sitting down with her 2 nights a week over video calls for the past few weeks just to put together a plan for the paper. But so far, she's just been slacking off, like she always has been when it comes to serious work. I did somewhat expect this to happen, as I said in my last post, but not to this extent. She would join the call, say hello, then just sit on her phone while I tried to drag ideas out of her, giving non-committal answers whenever I answered a question. I got mad at her a few times over the past few weeks, telling her she had to actually engage with me in order to complete the project. She'd apologize, make some excuse for her lack of focus, and pretend to pay attention for the rest of the session. Then the next week, she'd go right back to the same thing, sitting there barely paying any attention while I did everything myself. It's gotten to the point where I'm going to have to give her an ultimatum. We have another call tomorrow to finalize the structure and details of the paper before we begin writing it, and I plan to let her know that she needs to either take this seriously or I won't be giving her my help anymore. She can't just sit there and expect me to do everything for her. It's immature and, quite frankly, disrespectful, especially given how strained our relationship's been throughout the past few years. So that's the plan for tomorrow. I know this is not the most interesting update in the world. I really just wanted to vent, as her immaturity and lack of commitment is really getting to me, but when I try to talk to my mom about it, she tells me I need to cut my sister some slack. To be honest with you, I definitely have some issues with my mom, as well as my sister, but that's a whole different issue and I don't have the energy to get into it. I was about to let my sister know that she needs to take her thesis seriously while working with me, or that I would be giving her my help no more. I said this to her the next time we had a video call, expecting her to understand where I was coming from, and finally realized that it was time to grow up and take her life seriously, but oh boy, I was wrong. What happened was nearly the complete opposite of what I expected to happen. My sister basically lost it after I tried to get real with her, raising her voice at me and telling me I was selfish, and she said that I was her big sister, and so she should feel obligated to help her out, especially since she was studying something similar to what I studied myself. She really sounded like a spoiled brat, saying she felt I was being unfair to her and blaming me for making the project too difficult for her to understand. She then said that I was just jealous that she never had to try as hard as I did to do well in life, and was just taking it out on her. Well, at that point I kind of lost it at her, telling her how I thought she was an entitled, privileged child, and that she needs to finally grow up and take some responsibility in her life. She felt that I was just taking my resentment out on her because I have such a, quote, cynical outlook on life. That started with me imagining a toxic childhood that apparently never happened. Well, Things devolved from there, and she ended the call saying that she never should have ever expected me to help her, saying that she knew I just felt threatened by her and not wanting her to be more successful than I am. Now, I didn't hear anything from her for about 2 weeks after that, and I was totally fine with it. As far as I was concerned, she had just broken the last shred of what sisterly bond we had ever had in the first place. Well, the fact that she felt entitled to me just because she's the younger sibling and feels not only that I imagined everything we went through as a child, but resent her for not being as affected by it as I am is just the last straw. If she did not want to actually listen to me, then that's totally fine with me. She could suffer the consequences. So I received a call from my sister a few days ago, saying how ashamed she is of her behavior and begging me for forgiveness. She again made excuses for acting the way she did, but she could not blame it on alcohol this time. I know, well, now that this is just the person she is, emotionally immature and mean. She begged me to come back and help with her thesis, promising that she would take it seriously and pull her weight from then on. I knew that she didn't care as much about me forgiving her as she did about getting her thesis done, as I'd noticed that she has not written anything new in the shared document in the 2 weeks we weren't speaking. She just wanted to take the easy way out yet again, having me do as much of the work as she could convince me to do. I decided on the spot that day that I would teach her a lesson. If she was not going to take my warning seriously when I spoke to her as an equal, then I would get her to listen another way. I knew she would not listen to me, but she would listen to her academic supervisor. And if she was caught plagiarizing another piece of work, then she would finally have to own up to her lack of responsibility and simply grow up. So, I'm currently writing some of the thesis and added in quite a bit from my own paper on the subject. Luckily for me, my sister went down the same academic route I did, as I could plagiarize myself without putting too much work into it. The paper's due in 2 weeks' time, and I'm going to make sure that there is as much unoriginal content in there as I can. I know a lot of you are going to think that I'm being cruel by doing this, that I'm taking it a step too far and risking her academic career, just to try to teach her a lesson. To be quite honest with you, I don't care. Her careless and immature attitude has gone on for far too long, and she does not feel accountable for a single aspect of her life. I mean, come on, she's a 22-year-old woman and she needs to grow up. Not only that, but she needs to learn that not everything is someone else's fault. She can't just blame her shortcomings on other people anymore. So yeah, that's what I'm going to do. I stand by my decision to do it, and I hope it brings about the changes that need to happen. Update number 3. Hey guys, I just want to acknowledge the massive contrast in the responses I got in my last post. I got a huge amount of people agreeing with my choice, and an equally huge amount of people calling me a selfish person. I think you could probably identify where people fall in their family order of siblings from the data, which is pretty interesting to see. Well, it's been 2 months since my last post and 1 month since my sister submitted her finished thesis to be graded. She got her results yesterday and has been placed on academic probation after her paper was found to have large traces of plagiarism. What a shock. She met with her academic supervisor today, and they told her that unless she wants to fail her master's degree, she has to rewrite her thesis before the end of the month. Well, she also has chose to do another subject so as to reduce the chances of her plagiarizing again, as they were able to identify that it was my thesis that she basically copied. I wasn't sure what was going to happen after the college found out about plagiarism, but I think that this works pretty well. Her life is not ruined, but she'll suffer some serious consequences if she does not actually try this time. My sister was of course distraught, as you can imagine. She called me immediately after her meeting with the supervisor, telling me what happened and looked for an explanation. So, I've never planned on playing dumb with her about the situation, so I just straight up told her what I had done and why I did it. I told her that since she had chosen not to listen to me about needing to take things seriously and had instead chosen to take the easy way out, I had decided to try to get through to her in another way, by bringing her college into it. She began crying and screaming at me, calling me all sorts of names and accusing me of ruining her life. I let her get it all out of her system, wished her luck with the rewrite, and hung up the phone. As far as I'm concerned, that video call in which she blamed me for everything that's gone wrong in her life and calling me selfish was the end of our relationship. I know she's my sister, but she's not someone I want or need to have in my life with her behavior. My mother called me when I got off the phone with my sister, absolutely shocked at what I've done, as my sister had called her and told her what happened from her perspective, spinning me around as the cruel, jealous older sister. I explained to my mother that this was the only other way I could think to get through to her and get her to see that she needs to grow up. My mom is not happy at all with what I've done and told me as much, but I've said in a previous post, my mother and I do have our own issues. If she can't see where I'm coming from, then that's her business. So, that's where I'm at right now. I still don't regret what I've did, and I wish my sister nothing but the best for her new thesis. I know that she definitely won't be coming for me for help, so I'll be interested to see if she finally does get her act together and actually try with this. Or if she'll just crash and burn. I truly hope that this is the turning point for her. Because if she doesn't take a look at herself and take accountability for her life, then she's really going to struggle going forward. I don't have much else to say on this update, other than the expected thank you for the people who have been supporting me throughout this, and I do appreciate every one of you. If I have more to add to this story in the future, I will, but as of now, thanks for reading. Update number 4. Hey guys, I know it's been quite a few months since I wrote this thread and I don't really have anything huge to add, but I wanted to kind of bring it to an end of the story and give a bit of closure to anyone who wanted it. So, for anybody wondering about how my sister's second thesis paper went, those who supported me in the decision to teach her a lesson will be happy to hear she got her act together and failed with a worse grade in her master's degree. And before you ask, she wrote it without anyone's help because, well, she had none. Anyways, I had not heard this from her own mouth though. We still haven't had any contact since the whole ordeal went down a few months back, and besides a few hostile drunk messages, she left me every few weeks, calling me a failure and saying that I even tried to ruin her life. I have not received one in a few weeks though, which is definitely a good sign. No, I heard the news from my mother, who I speak to ever so often, and our relationship was already kinda difficult before everything that happened this year, but it became a lot more strained after what I did to my sister's thesis. We talk a lot more than we used to, and I can tell that she's emotionally taken my side after she realized what an entitled child my sister is. But she still helps her financially, and most of the time she asks me to talk to her or guide her. I never plan to, though. To be honest with you, I've kind of given up on the idea of having a healthy relationship with my family after everything that's happened. I already don't speak to my dad and have always had a difficult relationship with both mom and sister, so this is not really anything shocking to me. Plus, I know that I don't regret what I did, so if they feel a certain type of way about it, then that's got nothing to do about me. I'm saying that I do still care about them, obviously, and hope that this has been a kick that my sister needed to get her life together and finally grow up, because I know that it will benefit her in the long run. And no matter how much she hates me for being a huge part of her failure, I was also a mirror for her reality. My mother tells me that she's working somewhere on the basis of her graduation, and she finally has been stagnant for more than 4 to 5 months. For now, I have my future husband by my side, and his family is a bunch of angels. They've recently accepted me as their own from day one, and They've also shown me that a real family is supposed to be like. I feel blessed to be a part of the family like this. So, either way, I'm not really alone. Not anymore. I do hope that my sister and I can talk someday, but whenever we do, I'm going to greet her from afar. She deserved what she got. All her life, I was not going to feed her the reality. She had to learn her lesson of making it on her own, and even if she failed her master, she learned something from it. A much-needed lesson. So that's it for me. Nothing much else to report to you guys, except to say thanks again, everyone, who stuck with me through this whole thing. You're very much appreciated.
Okay guys, so let's discuss this. In the comment section of the original post, it was saying how they don't really agree with OP's approach. I mean, yeah, she could have just straight up told her, I don't want to write this thesis for you. But making it completely plagiarized and, well, putting her sister through that was not the right decision. But there were other people who completely disagreed with that and said this was the only way she was going to learn a lesson. I don't really know which side was completely right. I think everyone sucks here. But let me know your thoughts. Let me know what you would do if you were in OP's position. Would you do what she did, or would you do something a little different? Drop your opinions down below, guys. Thank you for joining me on today's video. My name's Mr. Reddito. I drop a story every single day, so stop by tomorrow, see what we're up to. Just remember, it's cool to be kind. See ya.